I was not satisfied with just one drink. And that to me was my problem. I can't have just one glass of wine. And I almost like craved that second glass because that second glass was going to kind of give you the foggy feeling that like my body needed to check out. I was like, okay, then that's the problem.
Life Audio.
Hello, and welcome to the Confessions of a Christian Alcoholic podcast. I am your host, John Seidel, and I am the Christian who became an alcoholic, not the other way around. Here, we get radically vulnerable about addiction, recovery, messy sanctification, and all the things we turn to instead of Jesus because we're all addicted to something. You'll hear raw, honest conversations from those who have struggled, those who help those who struggle, and why aiming for Jesus and getting sobriety thrown in is actually the best goal. So let's get right into this week's episode. One of the things that I find really interesting, encouraging, is it seems like there are plenty of people waking up to the fact that you don't have to look like a traditional addict, alcoholic, whatever, in order to change your relationship with a substance, with anything. And our guest today is one of those people. She has a massive following on Instagram. She's a Christian woman who has for years been a successful podcaster and writer. Her name is Jeanette Tapley. And I noticed towards the end of last year that she was posting a recap of 2025. And one of the things she mentioned was, as a positive, was realizing that her relationship with alcohol needed to change. Now, Jeanette does not call herself an alcoholic, but she has realized that the way that she was treating alcohol, the place that it occupied in her life, the jobs that she had given it, was all unhealthy. And so she set out on a mission to re-examine it. She got curious. And if you are here for the first time, or you have heard several episodes, curiosity is so key. And so Jeanette went on this journey, and what she found at the end was uncomfortable. She found that what she was using alcohol for was unhealthy, even though she was not this quote unquote drunk. Right? And so she's going to tell us her story. She's also going to give a life update. If you follow her online, you kind of have realized that she is doing something different these days other than just the writing and the podcasting, and has kind of gotten away from that a little bit. So we're going to talk about her life update, which I think is always, I love having those conversations. I think when people have posted life updates and especially in the Christian world and have said, hey, like I've realized I've realized some things and I'm going in a different direction. I'm always fascinated by them. And so this also leads to a good conversation on striving and what it looks like to try to be someone in the quote unquote Christian content sphere that doesn't just chase likes. And there are plenty of people that I know that do that. And that doesn't mean that everything they post is bad, right? It just means that I think there's a healthy way to do it and an unhealthy way to do it. Jesus still uses it, and I'm grateful for that because, as a reminder, God only works through sinners, right? And the only one that he worked through that wasn't was Jesus. So if you're expecting perfection, it's not going to happen. Doesn't give us an excuse. But we're going to talk to Jeanette about that. We're going to talk to her about her realizations, and I love the quote that she uses, and I want you to ponder it now and as she gets into it. But she says, "I didn't have a drinking problem. I had a problem with my drinking." Think about that. I didn't have a drinking problem. I had a problem with my drinking. I love that. I think it's another unique way to kind of say what I've been saying. which is we're all addicted to something to start with. We all have those things that we turn to that become idols, and it doesn't matter what it is. Drinking, Netflix, food, porn, relationships. And so you may not have a relationship problem, but you may have a problem with your relationship. So with that said, I want to get into it with Jeanette, but real quickly, appreciate your support if you have enjoyed this podcast in the past, or if you've even just loved this introduction and this is your first time. Please think about sharing one thing that you're about to hear with someone else. Like, rate, whatever. And please check out veritasrecovery.org. Veritas Recovery is the nonprofit I started to help people just like me and probably just like you, if you're listening to this, who find themselves doing the things they don't want to do. You can go to veritasrecovery.org, find free resources. You can inquire about coaching as well. And I just, the Lord has told me in so many ways to give it away. And so as much as I can do that, I do. And so you'll find a lot of those ways at veritasrecovery.org. All right, let's get into it with Jeanette Tapley. Jeanette, thank you so much for joining the Confessions of a Christian Alcoholic podcast. We talked a little bit before, and you have historically been on my side of the mic, and now you're on the other side, and so we're just going to flip the script. So thanks for coming.
Oh my gosh, it is so fun. I actually was looking for the record button because I am so used to all right, here we go. So yeah, thank you for having me, John. This is so fun. I actually love being interviewed. One, I just love talking. That's what it is. I just love chatting. So I'm really excited to be here.
Well, great. And I'm so honored that you decided to come on. I said this a little bit in the intro, but we tell all kinds of stories on this podcast related to alcohol or other, addictions, whether that's food or whatnot. And I'm not saying you were an addict, but we're going to get into that. But one of the things I continually preach is that we're not about, and hopefully people don't see, that you have to have some desperate rock bottom moment to be like, you know what, this ain't working for me. Or I need to change this relationship, whatever that looks like. And so I'm excited to talk about that. But before we get into that part of your story, why don't you introduce yourself? And I'm curious how you're going to introduce who you are and what you do, because there's been some change recently.
Yeah.
So
this is the first time this is the first time I get to do this. I'm Jeanette Tapley. I'm a wife. I've been married for almost 22 years. I think. Yeah, we're almost at 22 years. We've been together forever. So at that point, after 20, I realized it's just we've been married 20 plus years. We have 3 kids. I have a freshman in college. I have a senior in high school, and I have a freshman in high school. And I have been showing up on the internet for a very long time as a podcast host, podcast producer, and just social media. And I would say content creator. I would love to say influencer, but I don't know about that. So, social media content creator. And in the last few months, a flight attendant for a major, major U.S. carrier. So now I am a flight attendant. I'm adding that to my resume, and it's so much fun.
And I want to, hopefully, if time allows, I want to get into a little bit about that decision. Maybe we can we're going to break news. No, we're not going to break news.
Yeah, but, do it. Yeah.
I would just love to unpack that with you, because whenever someone makes a kind of career change, there's a part of me, not a part of me, I respect it, because I know that it can be so hard, especially when and I'm not saying your identity was wrapped up in your other job, but when you've done something for so long. Yeah. And it takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of thought and prayer, although you kind of joked in your one reel, probably needed a hug today, decided to, apply for a new job, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah. No, we can definitely get into it, because it does tie into how the last year changed, how so much of what changed in the last year changed me in the last year. So we'll definitely, we can get into that.
So I was first introduced to you because I'm not going to pretend that I'm your target audience. Young middle-aged moms. So I think you and I had a mutual friend, Laura Smith,
Mm.
and we were part of like an Instagram giveaway, and it was like, hey, follow each other and you post stuff, and then you kind of like share all the new followers, and it was great. And that was like maybe a year or two ago. And so you came on my feed, but I'm going to be honest, like like we never talked, we didn't know each other. So then at the end of 2025, you came on my feed with kind of like an end of year recap, and you posted, let me see here, 6 things that you're like, 5 things I'm leaving behind in 2025, 6 things I'm bringing into 2026, and then things I failed at. And I thought it was so interesting. I read that post, and number 2 on things I'm leaving behind in 2025 said this. I'm going to read it. Mindless coping. I got real honest about alcohol this year, why I reached for it, how it impacted my rest, and what it revealed about my rhythms. And I think for me, I read that and I was like, dang, that's good, right? And I wish I would have done that, years ago, because I know what it ended up becoming. And I'm not saying that everyone in your position ends up becoming an alcoholic like me, but man, I thought that was so good, so brave, so courageous. And so my question that I want to just open it up to is, you say you got real about your relationship with alcohol. And I would say, what did that look like? What did you learn? Why were you reaching for it? What did it reveal? Like you said in the post, I'm curious.
Yeah, man. Even hearing you like read that post back, I'm like, oh yeah. Like in that, just the like peek behind my creative brain is I had that idea for a post while I was working out. Like sometimes that's like when I have like, I'm like, ooh, like I will be in like mid workout and like run and grab my phone and like write this down.
Yep.
And so even hearing you read that, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember the genesis of that post. And so what happened was last year, about this time, I was 39 and no, I was 38 and I was entering my 39th birthday, like getting ready for my 39th birthday. And I thought, I want to spend this year making like the entrance into this next decade really, really intentional. And so that meant looking at a lot of my rhythms and habits. And I got an Oura ring, and it started opening my eyes to so many things. And so I guess like when I look back at that line that you read, like I got real about like what drinking was doing to me and how I was reaching for it. Or, even, and we joke a lot in my friend group, like I don't need a drink, but I want to drink. Like, because we're really careful with that line. Like I don't need to drink, but I would love to drink. Or I love a drink. And so it was kind of that mindset that really started, kind of taking hold, and call it conviction, call it awareness, call it, a health push or whatever. But it was like, oh, I really need to sit down and start looking at this. So that started in March. And then it wasn't until June that I was like, okay, you said you're going to enter this you're going to really work on yourself this next year. What have you been doing? You haven't been doing much. And so in June I did, I had a sober month. Like I didn't drink at all for June. And then, I started hitting the gym a lot more. I've always gone to the gym. Like I know that the gym is good for my body. I know that it's good for my mental health. My best friends are at the gym. They own the gym. So like going to the gym is easy for me. But it was like, okay, I'm actually going to push myself. I'm going to be intentional. And I think that that's what June started for me, was this month of intention. I wasn't drinking. I was working out more. I was seeing the data. That's really what hit me, was I was seeing the data on my Oura ring. I was resting better. I was sleeping better. I was recovering faster. And I was like, oh, people aren't wrong. Alcohol is poison. Like shocking, like who knew that science was real in this? And so that's where it kind of started. And then after a sober month, you're allowed, quote unquote, allowed to drink again. Right. And it's like, okay, how am I going to do this? And I think throughout the next 6 months, I was said the line a lot. I don't have a drinking problem. I have a problem with my drinking. And so I just knew that the way that I was reaching for alcohol in a stressful moment, we we've said for years that we've had a really hard couple of years, but we lost my father-in-law. It's just constant. But we lost my father-in-law to cancer a couple of years ago. Having a daughter that has, some unspecified mood disorders has been really hard on our family. We have back-to-back seniors in high school. I don't recommend that. That's hard to launch 2 kids back to back. It's awful. And but it's also so great. Like I say, that's awful, but it's like, I love it so much. So it was time to kind of take stock and kind of peel the layers back and be like, okay, why are you reaching for this? And if you could reach for something else, what would you reach for? And so I started reaching for, like chocolate magnesium at night, and just, I was like, okay, if I said I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it well, then I actually have to do it.
By the way, like that line was so good. I was writing it down. I was literally, and I've gone back to like pen and paper. So, wasn't checking my phone. If you're watching this on the Veritas Daily, I was like, I want to remember that. And so, okay. So if that was kind of the line that you said over the next 6 months, then what did that look like? I mean, you said you were reaching for magnesium. So is it like, you're like, okay, gave it up for a month and now I don't drink at all? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, it really came down to, okay, if I'm not drinking, like I still drink. Like I love a glass of wine. I love a cocktail. But it revealed in me that I was not satisfied with just one drink. And that to me was my problem. I was like, oh, if I can't have just one glass of wine, and I almost like craved that second glass, because that second glass was going to kind of give you the foggy feeling that like my body needed to check out. I was like, okay, then that's the problem. So then I had to like teach myself, like I limited myself. Like if you drink, you have one. And it was like, it just was that kind of like mentality. And so now I can. And now, hear me when I say there's still the battle of like, well, I could have another. And it's like, no. Like I've just trained myself now to be like, one is enough. Like one is totally fine.
How? Right? Like how?
Yeah.
Because there's people listening to this who are like, I want that. I want to be able to train. Like I want just that one. And I think for me, you know, my wife and I, for a while, it was like just 2, right? And I know what's up at 2. So I was never able to have that. But I also know there are people who can. Right? Yeah. And so I'm just curious, like, what did it look like for you to train yourself? Was it spiritual? Was it physical? Was it a combination? Was it, reminding yourself of X, Y, and Z? I'm just curious. We'll be right back after this.
Yeah, I think it would probably, and this is the other side of it where I want to be like really mindful and say like, I do have alcoholism in my family, but I don't feel like I struggle with that part of it. And so I could be like, I just tell myself no. And people are like, cool, that doesn't work, So I want to be really, really mindful to say like, I understand that this isn't like, it's not this easy for other people. But it really was a discipline aspect. It was, accountability. I'm telling my husband, like, I'm only going to have one. And I'd be like, that's where it stops. And he had to hold me accountable for that. But he also works nights. And then that was the other thing is, he's away a lot on nights. And I had to tell myself that I wasn't, and I hate to say it wasn't allowed, but it almost starts with that, like, that base level of like allowance. And it was like, I'm not allowed to drink if Jesse's not home, because then it's just me and the kids, and my teenage kids aren't going to be like, Mom, you said you only wanted one drink tonight. Like they're not going to like parent me in that. So I had to go through like, it was a lot of discipline. I think what it comes down to is like, I had to focus on the discipline part of it so that I could kind of like create those habits. Nowadays we look at like streaks. Kids are obsessed with their streaks for whatever. And so it had to be a streak. It had to be a streak of like, the last time you only had one and that was really good. Like you did a really good job. Or the last time Jesse was on nights, you didn't drink alone and that was really good. Or, like you almost have to like build up that muscle memory so that the next time you are in a situation where you're like, well, 2 glasses wouldn't be terrible. Now there were times where I would be out to dinner and one margarita would be great. And then we're like late, it almost feels like that like long dinner time. Yeah. And it would be like, I'm going to have another. Like, it's like, there was also the allowance of like, I'm not going to be so strict and rigid that I'm not going to enjoy my time with or it almost comes down to, and this is where I think a lot of people really can struggle, where it's like, well, it's fine. It's this, it's that, it's okay. And it's like, does it feel okay in your heart today? Like, that's where like the conviction comes in, where it's like, it's almost like that silent moment of like, okay, God, like, if I have the second drink, am I being disobedient to you? Am I following the discipline that we have set up? Like, is this okay? Like that quick combo with God where it's like, hey, I think I'm going to do this. Or are you good with that? And if it's like you said one drink, it's like, okay, cool. Like, I'm not going to do it. Like, I'll have a Coke. I'll have Dr. Pepper or something, like switch it up a little bit. But it was a lot of like, it was a lot of talking to myself and talking to the Lord and just kind of obeying that discipline that you set forth.
What do you think, you talked a little bit about that conviction. What do you think that conviction was for you? Like, was it mostly like, hey, I'm using this to cope and that's, I need to be careful there? What do you feel like was the greatest conviction for you personally?
Yeah, I think it was the coping. It was checking out. It was, it's the wildest thing that alcohol is the one thing that everyone's okay with you kind of indulging in without being like, hey, are you good? And so, like I said, so many emotional things and heavy things were happening that like, if I were to have 2 to 3 glasses of wine and people who know me know what's going on, they're like, yeah, you deserve that. Whereas like, if I was any sort of other, like it's struggling in any other way, if I was eating like 7 donuts with my friends, they weren't going to be like, yeah, that's okay. They'd be like, dude, what are you doing? And so I think it was that conviction of like, why are you checking out? Why are you turning to this instead of to the Lord? One, because sometimes it's easier to check out than turn to the Lord.
100%.
So, like, I would much rather not be convicted in this moment
Alcohol's effective.
Yes, and it hits. It's a quick hit, and so so that's where it was. It was the conviction of like, why are you turning to this over the Lord? And some of it was like, because I know that this is gonna affect me immediately, and the Lord is gonna be like, be still and wait. I am fighting for you, and I'm like, cool. I don't want that. Like, I don't want to be still. I don't want that. And there was a big season where I was running from the Lord, not in the sense of like, my faith was weak. Like that's what I'll say. I was, and I think that shows. It shows that my faith was weak if I was turning here so often. And, that was such a problem that I wasn't really ready to admit to him or to myself, to be like, hey, I actually like don't trust you right now. And so as I was kind of reevaluating and coming back, but it was also this like, okay, I know that you're going to fight for me. I know that you care for my family. I know that you do all this. So the surrender was laying down alcohol and trusting him to like actually fight for me.
What brought you to that place? I mean, I know you talked about, you were seeing the health benefits and maybe that's it, right? But what brought you to the place of even seeing kind of the, I talk a lot about root versus fruit, right? So the fruit was, hey, I'm doing this, I'm coping. What made you really kind of look and see, man, this comes down to a trust issue really in my heart?
Yeah, it's really, it centers around my kids. My oldest has struggled with his mental health here and there. In this last fall, he had a really hard moment, and I just remember sitting next to him on the floor while he was sleeping and just having that like talk with the Lord and being like, man, I said I've trusted you with these kids, and he's the biggest, and he's the one that doesn't like live at home. He's in college, and if I say I trust you, then I actually have to trust you. And if you can, it was that like, if you do this, then I will this. And it was like, if you can make him okay today, then I'll get back in the word. I will do everything that I know to do because I can trust you if today is okay.
So when you kind of got back to that place, you've been on this side, right? What do you feel like? Was it those hard, I talk about it just being a slow fade, right? And my slow fade then looked like more and more coping. Yeah. But what did that look like for you? Was it more like, hey, all these things happened in succession, and so I just got busy. But like, what did the fade, if there was a fade, what did that look like for you, just spiritually? Like, you said I just wasn't in a good place with God.
Yeah. I think it started with some hard kid stuff, and then my father lost cancer, and then more hard kid stuff, and then just like life kind of snowballed. And when you cope a little bit, that coping doesn't it's not enough anymore. Like you almost have to cope more. Like, and so then you drinking is no longer drinking one glass of wine is not enough. Like, oh shoot, you drink a whole bottle of wine, and then it's like, well, on top of that, what's your screen time limits at? Like, or do you have limits? And so you just your life becomes a cope. Like everything that you're doing is coping, or trying to cope with everything that you're not dealing with. And so I think it was just a slow fade. It was, man, life is hard. And like I said, we joke that man, life has been hard for the last couple of years, for 6 years. Like, and at that point, I think it's I think that's just life, girl. Like,
no, don't tell me that.
I think that might just be life. I wish there was a better way. So I think that it was a little bit of that, but I think that slow fade is really what it is, because like I said, all of a sudden one glass of wine isn't enough. It's two. And then you're scrolling until midnight, or then you're reading things that you don't like to, or you're watching things that you don't like to, like all of your convictions kind of go out the window when you're quote unquote, I'm just coping, I'm just dealing, I'm just this. And it's once I kind of re-surrendered, it was ooh, there's a lot going on here that you have to clean house. I had to really check my phone. I had to unfollow a lot, because I was the stuff that I was consuming was actually not doing my heart and my mind well. And, you just have to, like I said, I think it's just room by room, clean up the house.
You said something there that I've been doing, but I've been struggling with doing, and that is unfollowing. And what I have been doing is not necessarily unfollowing oh, I was, this was a quote unquote bad account or
right.
whatnot. But even just other people, Christians, who I'm it appears to me like you're striving, right? You're constantly just trying to manufacture. You're constantly doing this, that, and the other thing. And maybe some of it is good, right? But man, I look at it and it just does something to me. And the something to me may be my fault, right? It may be a something inside of me that maybe they're not striving. Maybe I'm unfairly judging them. And so I've struggled. I'm so do I unfollow them or not? Because if I unfollow them, then is that really just am I admitting it's a problem with me and it's not their fault? And I go back and forth. And finally I'm just well, maybe I am the weaker vessel. And then I just need to do that, right? And so I'm curious if you had any sort of struggle like that, and if you felt a tension of, man, I'm going to unfollow some of this stuff, and maybe it's not bad, maybe it is bad, but it's a me problem. I don't know. I'm just curious if you had any similar thoughts or feelings.
Yeah, I think that I definitely see that, where it's man, this person is, and for me, it's this person is doing so well. And I'm not to that caliber, or I'm not doing that, or shoot, I haven't tried that tactic yet. Maybe I should try that.
Right.
And it causes me to strive.
Yes.
And so I'm
yes.
And so I had to unfollow a lot of the social media marketing stuff, people, stuff like that, where it was 30 reels for 30 days and grow your platform. And it was oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. And so there was a lot of that I had unfollowed. I mean, then there's some I've been in the Christian media space for a very long time. And there was some people that was I just had to unfollow. And there was a little bit of hurt for me, kind of tiptoeing away from it a little bit. Cause I was these people don't actually know my name, and that's okay. They don't need to know my name, but I have been in this space for a while, and I'm just gonna remove myself from this. And that was maybe a little bit of I'm going to remove myself from it. Maybe some days was a little bit pouty, and then some days it was I actually don't think I'm supposed to be right here anymore.
Yeah.
And that being okay. But then also, so I think that it's this triangle of there's probably a little bit of that, a little bit of like hurt feelings, and then a little bit of like it's fine. Like an unfollow, like it's not actually going to hurt them, and it's actually probably going to be okay for me. Like,
yeah,
like it's it's that like reality of like I can always refollow later.
Yeah, right. You hinted at kind of walking away from the space, and I want to get there in a second. But I want to ask you this: what was the reaction to your? I mean, you have the post that you did at the end of the year talking about stepping away from alcohol or treating it differently.
Yeah.
What was the reaction first among your friends? Or even not your friends, maybe just people who were in your circle? Like, did anyone take notice? Were they like, huh? I'm just curious what the reaction was.
Yeah. So for my sober June, I only told a couple of my close friends, because summertime in Texas is the time to drink. Like it really is.
You go to the lake.
Yes. There's there's a lot better than this. And so I want to be really careful with my words, but nothing is more than a nice margarita by the pool. Like it just, sometimes that's just what hits. And so, we had a couple of like birthday parties back to back. And after one birthday party, I was like, this is the day. Like I stopped drinking for the month. And then we had more birthday parties. Well, I was just really intentional that I would always have like an Alani or, like a seltzer water, something that like I could pour into a fun cup and have a fun cup, because I feel like if you have a fun cup in your hand, nobody's asking you questions. And if everybody's drinking around you, nobody's noticing that you're not getting to that level. You know what I mean? So that first month I like was really quiet about it. And then, I just believe that I have really holy friends and friends who are really intentional. One, with relationship with me, and two, their own relationship with God. And so I'd be like, yeah, I've said the same thing. I have said the same thing to them that I said to you. Like, I don't have a drinking problem, but I have a problem with how much I'm drinking, or I have a problem with my drinking. And they'd be like, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? And I was like, I think I'm just going to have one glass tonight, or I'm just going to, or I'm not going to drink tonight. I'm going to have a Diet Coke with lime. And they're like, okay. Like, nobody's like aghast. And I think that culture is changing. And I hope that culture is changing for our kids, because I think people are seeing more and more that alcohol is bad for us.
Yeah.
And I think that the next generation is coming out and being like I have younger friends that like, no, drinking makes me anxious. And when we have more people in our group that are like that, it's not like one person isn't drinking or two people aren't drinking. You know, it's like, okay, who's having drinks? Okay. And then like, that's it. Who needs a water? Who needs who needs a liqueur? Who needs a Topo Chico? Like, whatever. It's not a like, oh, are you struggling? It's like, oh, okay, you're not drinking tonight. Cool. What do you need? It's just so much more casual. And I'm also I am almost 40, but I have a lot of younger friends, and they're all pregnant all the time. And so they're not drinking.
Right.
So it's just interesting. Now, I have a friend, and my best friend, like my very best friend, she consumes alcohol so well. Like she's like, one is enough. And I'm always just like, I want to be like you. And so having people in your life that model that and kind of set the precedence, or aren't like, you're not drinking, like, and because we have friends who are trying to get pregnant or are pregnant, nobody's like, I mean, we clock it. Don't get me wrong. Like if I have a friend and I know she's trying to get pregnant and she turns down a drink, I'm like, check the date on that. All right. Clocking that for later. But I'm not being like, why aren't you drinking? You know, so I think that culture is changing. And if it's not, then I want us to be that for our friends. Yeah. I don't want to be the person that's like, well, what's going on? Why aren't you drinking? And so if it's like, oh, you're not drinking, cool. What do you need? I think that's how my friends loved me through that.
Why do you think, you talked about your experiment in June. What do you think, like, why did you feel like you had to hide it?
Because
and that's not like, I'm not asking that, like, why'd you feel like you had to hide it? Like, I think because I think a lot of us feel like that way.
Yeah, it was purposeful. It was purposeful because it was an internal struggle.
Yeah.
It was the wrestle of like, I don't want to admit that I am struggling with this, like this conviction that I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I need to sort it out on my own kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What was kind of, did anyone else react to your post with that about, I know I commented on it. Really?
No, you're the only one. And again, I don't know if it's just my followers are like, yeah, like Jeanette, that's what she does. Or if it was just like, or if culture is changing in my hopes, that's my hope is that culture changing so much that it's like, yeah, that's cool. Like, I'm glad you're on board with us.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
You had, I want to go back to one last thing before we're going to talk about your transition, but you had talked about kind of your struggle with your faith. And I'm just curious, what, being on this side of it, which I think you are from what you talked about, what advice would you give to yourself looking back on the front side of it?
I think I'd even go back to like summertime and I would probably say like, I feel like, so I don't know if I am a pastor's kid, so I'm like going back to like Bible school. But I would probably say to like, even if he is still good, like, even if changing your relationship with alcohol doesn't change your faith, or even if sending your first kid off to college shakes you a little bit more than you want, or even if all these changes don't look what you thought it was going to look like, God is still so good. And the thing my friends and I have said over the last like 6 months is God cares about the details. He's in like the littlest things that like we don't even realize, but then are later like, oh yeah, that totally worked out so good for us. It's those the little tiny details. So I probably would even whisper that to myself, like probably in the summer, like he's in the little things. God cares about the little things.
So that brings us to potentially, I think, a good transition, which is your transition. And so, you talked about that. I mean, you said it, you've been in the Christian media space for a long time, right? Like I think at least 2 successful podcasts. And now you're like, I decided I'm going to be a flight attendant for a major airline. As we're recording this, you've just kind of gotten through the bulk of your training, and now you're starting. I'm curious, what went into that decision?
We'll be right back after this.
Oh, it's so funny. And when we were talking before, like to line it all up, it's like, oh man, God cares about all the little details, because I applied for this job in June. In the middle of like what I can look back now almost 8 months later and be like, oh, God started to work in me in June. I mean, he started working me back, whatever, but like in June, this was a really intentional, like that's a mile marker for me. Call it an Ebenezer, if you will.
Basket kid.
Yep, that's what it is. And so it's really interesting. But my sister's a flight attendant, and so I've seen her kind of have this really fun life, and I've also seen the really hard parts of it for her. And my husband and I talked about it for a long time, like, oh man, I would love to do that. And he's a shift worker, and he's like, it's not the time. And then I was like, hey, they're opening applications on the 26th of June. They're opening applications on the 26th. Like, I kind of want to apply, absolutely knowing it takes multiple times to apply for an airline. Like, what are the odds I get at this first round? Like, I'll have to apply the next time they open. But it's a good start. Like, you have to get your foot in the door first. And now I feel a little bit like Elle Woods, like, what? Like, it's hard? Because
I love that. Thank you. Us millennials, thank you.
Yes. And so that was in June. That was my sober month. I moved our daughter to high school. She's at a residential high school. I moved her to high school. We moved my oldest to college. And then we just kind of like sat still for a bit. And in aviation, no news is good news. And so we just waited and waited and waited and waited. And then in September, I got an email that was like, okay, one-way interview. Cool. And then, in-person interview in October. Yep. And I was like, okay, we're going to training in January. And it's like, oh, like, it's just the longest process in the world. But God was refining so much in me during those months of waiting. It's almost like the wilderness, you know, where you're just kind of like in the middle of it all, just trying to like, this will be cool if it happens. And if not, like, I'm sure there's another way. So I was kind of pursuing that, but still, I think I was a bad podcaster last year, I think. I'm trying to remember how many podcast episodes I actually put out. Because I could sense a change and I was getting a little bit bitter within the industry, to be totally honest with you.
What do you mean?
I was just getting frustrated. I was getting to the point where it's like, I'm having these people on my shows multiple times. Like I've sat down and had these conversations with you twice now. And you're like, oh, it's nice to meet you. And it's like, we've actually met before. Like I was just getting frustrated. Like, it was only media to them. It wasn't connection. And that's not to say that's for everybody. Like Laura, you said, like Laura Smith. Laura is one of my like greatest online friends. I adore her and she is so intentional with people, but not everybody is Laura. Right. And so when you just feel like you are a media stop for them and not an actual connection. And I got into this space to make connections, to connect listeners to these people, to bring like there was so much more like hope in my like starry little eyes, 8-10 years ago. And so I kind of lost the luster for it. And it was like, this is so much work and I do it all myself. And, And I think, yeah. And I think that for me, it was really the Lord, like ushering me into this change. And that's not for everybody. God might be like, hold, like stay. Right. And that's beautiful. But for me, I was like itching to change. Like I like even just wiggling about it, like I felt like something different was coming and I had no idea what it was. And, I'm still editing and producing. So I still have like my job in this space and I don't want to do my job in this space. You know, like I don't want to show up and be a podcaster anymore. So I was just really wrestling with it and really struggling. And then I just stopped podcasting. Like I was under contract and I was like, I just don't want to do it anymore. And, they were like, okay, whenever you have a feeling, jump back behind the mic. And I did like here and there and I'd be like, okay, I'm back now guys. Sorry about that. And then it was like one episode. I just couldn't do it anymore. Like so I told my network, I was like, to go sit behind a mic is a real big struggle for me. And they're like, okay, we'll keep creating content. Like just do you. And it's like, okay. And that freedom really set me free. Like, and then I, you know, like even that wiggling I was doing, I felt like a cocoon. Like it felt like, I don't know what's coming, but something's coming. And then in June, it was like, well, maybe it'll be this, but if it's not, then I'll continue doing what I do behind the computer, but no longer behind the microphone. And, this is my first time behind a microphone in a while. So it's really sweet and it's fun. I just lost like the passion for myself. And I have listeners that reach out to me and, that's really fun. But what people don't understand about podcasting is it's very lonely because you sit down and you and I connect and that's amazing. Right. But then you like throw it out there and you're like, hope it hits.
And you never, you know, I tell people reach out to me all the time. Yeah. And I rarely. Yeah. And it's rare. If you're listening to this, I rarely hear back from you guys. I mean, you'll comment on clips and stuff like that, but I'm not getting a ton of emails every episode. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And so then there's that like, well, are you doing it for you or are you doing it for other people? It's like, I'm doing it for other people. But it is nice to have an attaboy every once in a while. Yeah, you generally hear like, you know, hey, you're like, and the person that emailed me this actually, you know, wasn't mean about it, but he's like, hey, can you like interview more men? You know? And I'm like, can you find more men that are willing to be radically vulnerable? Because right now it's all the women.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true. And you're like, somebody told me one time, say a similar situation, like, well, we only hear from, you only hear from like moms. And it's like, if you look on the online space, a lot of people who are doing like influencing work or writing work are moms. Like I
Yeah.
can't control who's out there. And like,
Right.
if you want to give me a list. So it's,
Right.
so that's kind of, that was kind of where like the pivot from not being behind the microphone kind of started last year, and then kind of owning more of like the social media space for myself. And then, the pivot of like, oh, I actually got this job. Oh, I have to go do this now. And the fact that it like happened in June probably hasn't really hit me until today, where I was like, oh, because I can tell, like, there was a couple like the no drinking in June. I started hitting the gym better, like more consistently, and was like really intentional with the gym and my food. And then, and applying for this job, like all that happened in June, and that's not lost on me now. It might have been lost on me. So yeah, that's kind of the pivot. And now the thing that I like the thing that people have mentioned to me most, and I just didn't really think about it until like you said it today too, but pivoting is wild. And I was really embarrassed to pivot. I was
going
really
to ask.
Yeah, because it's like,
especially
I've been in this space.
Christian media. Yeah, like
Yeah.
we're like, I feel like you have to, and I have a writers group that Laura's in.
Yeah.
Where we talk about this all the time. Like, you have to have this combination of obviously authenticity, but then there's like, how are you feeding the algorithm, and how are you doing stuff? And then to just all of a sudden, and I'm not saying you've given it all up completely, like you're still posting stuff, but yeah, I'm curious. Explain that a little bit more.
I think my path wasn't going the right direction anymore. Like, I wasn't getting the book deal. I was getting turned down. I wasn't growing the way I thought I should be growing. My numbers were fine. My podcast was great. But it just was like same thing every week. And so I just felt stagnant in that. And so then to pivot was really embarrassing, because it was like, well, did I fail? Like, is this
right?
Like if I pivot like this, is that a failure? And I still probably wrestle with that, like the aspect of that a little bit. But at the same time, like people, the thing I've had to tell myself is people move jobs all the time. Like, and before social media happened, like my mom switched careers in her 40s. Like, it's not a wild thing. And then even just talking to my younger friends, and like a lot of them are entrepreneurs, and they're like, man, I'm gonna have to start a new job in my 40s. And I'm like, hi guys, like literally me. And they're like, oh my gosh, yeah. And then I have a friend, and she's got younger kids right now, and she's like, I am just so thankful that you're doing this, because you're showing us moms with younger kids that there's life after this. And I was like, oh, if that can be the beacon of hope for somebody, that once you send your kids away to college, your life isn't over, like for sure that's the beacon I want to be. Like, that you can follow the Lord into the next season of life and it not be terrible. Like, yeah. That's exactly what I would be. So I've had to like look at those aspects, and nobody was like, I can't believe you are stopping your podcast and you're not serving us anymore. It's like, nobody has said that to me. So I don't feel like a failure. I just am excited to lean in and show people the Lord in a totally different way now. And if I'm being honest, I think podcasting is changing. I think you're doing a video podcast, you know, that the medium is changing. If we go back, if you go back 40 years ago, video killed the radio star. Like, so you think about, like, you have to evolve and you have to do it. And it's like, I just wasn't willing to chase that rabbit anymore.
I like that, chase. Right, because I think your use of that word, because I think it's important, and it's something that I'm constantly having to check myself in my heart on. Like, Lord, am I chasing? Am I doing this for the right reasons? Right, like, and listen, you know, I talk about this a little bit in my book, but I say, you know, people think it's such an indictment to say you preach against your worst sin, and I'm like, no, absolutely you do, because you know it intimately. So why do I struggle and have to unfollow people that I feel like are striving? Because it's such a pull of my heart. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's such the performance, the performance, like, I'm not saying like, you know, I'm acting, but like where I have to achieve Like that's a pull of my heart that I need to guard
Yeah.
against, right? I have not.
Well, and
looked at
why would we
sales
not
numbers.
make his perfect, his, what is it? Like, he's perfect for our weaknesses. Like, why would I not
Yeah,
be like,
right.
I can't talk about this because it's my struggle.
Right.
Like, well, he's made perfect on this.
Right. Yeah.
So
like I
you
have,
say numbers. Yeah.
yeah, like I haven't looked at sales numbers for my latest book once. I haven't asked for them. I haven't checked Amazon author page. I haven't, my first book, I'd go do a speaking engagement or I'd do a podcast interview and look and be like, oh, did that get a bump? And again, you don't make money off of being especially a Christian author, right? So it wasn't like I was looking at that for how much money did I make? It was, did it land? Did it hit? Did I say something like, and what I found myself is that strivings, right? So when you use that word chasing, it's like, I get that. I get that totally. And I do have so much respect for you for saying, like maybe there's some elements of that. And it's just, I'm just not there anymore. Like it's just, and that we would all have the guts to evaluate whatever we're doing, whatever job, whatever, anything, your kid's sports. Are you in it more for yourself than you are for them? And if so, man, let's have a pivot moment, I look back though at your journey, right? Especially with alcohol. And you've talked about now seeing this correlation to June. And I wonder, have you had to, one of the things that I've had to learn since giving up alcohol, and for me, I had to give it up completely, right? Because I say the only drink I can say no to is the first one. I've tried to do what you've done, and I respect you, and I celebrate that my wife is like you. She can have one drink, and I'm like, I don't understand it, or even if I don't understand it, or even if I was able to understand it, I just can't stop. And I look back and I realize one of the things I didn't know or learn or understand how to do was to grieve well. And I'm curious, did you have to grieve at all? Kind of like, I'm putting this season to bed and I'm going to move into this new season. And do you see kind of any correlation with now, hey, I don't have, my coping mechanism is gone. So now I truly do have to grieve it. Like, was there any aspect of that in your story, you feel like?
I love that you use the word grief, because grief is such a pal of mine. Like I've known grief my entire life. I candidly or casually say, like, grief has been a friend of mine since I was 4 years old when my biological dad passed away. And I've known grief every season of every major stage of my life. I've lost somebody, so I just know grief well. That doesn't mean I walk with him well, but it means I just like
I know him intimately, but man,
we're pals, but I don't like him sometimes. So I think that there was this level of maybe not grief, but of example, because I have kids who are going to enter the drinking age soon, and I'm not an idiot. I know that they drink. So a little bit of it was, I want to be able to show them that it's okay to have just one drink, that like, that's enough. And two, I wanted them to see me turn drinks down, because I wanted them to see that is okay as well. Or to understand that, like, not every opportunity to drink has to be like a rager and all out, like party. They have seen, they've not seen it all, because it's not like our house, like this party house, but like we hosted a party for a friend, and they saw the abundance, but they also saw the people who were like sitting back being like, oh my God, our friends are so stupid. And so I think that there's beauty. For me, it was the lesson of, how can I expect them to learn from me if I'm not willing to be an example? So there wasn't necessarily the grief in that. And then I'm even thinking about like, like now that I travel and now that I'm like meeting people, one of my best friends in training, we were sitting at the restaurant and I was like, I'm going to get a glass of wine. Would you like anything? And he said, I don't drink. And so like the next, like 2 days later, I was like, okay, now that we have developed a friendship, I'm going to ask you, like, why? Like, why don't you drink? And so, it's just so fascinating to see and hear people's, stories in that. And if I can add just a glimmer of hope into someone's story, then that's all that's why we show up online, right? Like just those little glimmers. So to answer your question, I don't feel like I had grief there. I feel like I had a chip on my shoulder that I needed to teach my kids.
Interesting. What are you most excited for in this next season?
This is what the Lord is teaching me. And I have an amazing friend, and she called me the other day and she's like, what's God teaching you? And I was like, honestly, I feel like it's been pretty chill. But then as I'm like talking about it, I'm like, oh, the Lord is teaching me so much. I'm really excited to be alone. And that's a really hard thing for a mom of 3 and a wife of 20 years to say, because I don't know alone. Like I don't know that, because I'm never alone. And as my kids have left, like my senior in high school, he's always gone. And my husband, like I said, works nights often. And, but I can always call a friend. I can always fill that time. I can always kind of like find that. But there was times last weekend that I was exploring alone, and I thought, ooh, if I didn't like myself enough right now, this would be really hard. And if I wasn't like learning how to explore on my own, now Jesse's great and sends me like, go here and you will like these things. So he's a great little tour guide from afar. But that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited to really get to know me in a new season, in next week, in a new decade, to really hone like what God has created.
Would you do anything differently about that season that you walked through, the decision, anything?
I really like that you asked me about like why I kept it a secret, and I probably would have been a little bit more vulnerable. I probably would have like maybe even posted about it, like, hey, I'm not drinking this month, or something along those lines, to give people more thought to it. I think that I never want people to think I'm struggling. Like that's just like a sin struggle for me. Like I want people to think I'm okay. Call that the pastor's kid in me. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a little bit of that, but I also think that there's, there was just probably a little bit of lack of vulnerability. And I think I probably could have stepped into that a little bit better.
What do you think it is? You've kind of alluded to this a little bit too. Like you said this earlier, that, alcohol and drinking is kind of that one issue that if you were eating 7 donuts, and I think especially even in Christian culture, like even in the Christian space, and you've been in the Christian space for a long time. I was meeting with a guy recently, and he's like, we went on family vacation and like with extended family. He's like, it was so eye-opening. Here I am surrounded by people, all who are professing Christians, and they're like, well, we're on vacation. And he's like, and it was just, drink. And he's like, what? And I'm like, welcome to my world, right? Like part of what has opened my eyes to. But I'm just curious why you think that is, because it seems like you've seen that too.
We'll be right back after this.
Yeah, I think it's just, I don't even know. Like part of me is like, well, wine was in the Bible, so it's totally okay with us. But there's definitely this like line of, it's almost all or nothing. And that's why I kind of like being like, no, I still drink.
Yeah,
I just know that there's not I don't want abundance there. Because I grew up Southern Baptist, and my dad said, you'll never become an alcoholic if you don't take the first drink.
Right.
And that's true. That's a very true statement, but it's also a very fearful statement.
Yes.
And
it's not biblical to not meaning it's not like someone tried to come at me with that. I'm like, get out of here. No, drinking is not prohibited in the Bible. Sorry.
Yeah. So I think well, people are like, well, drunkenness is. And it's like, okay, well, drunkenness happens in different stages for all of us. Like I don't think drunkenness means when it says like, do not be drunk in the Bible, I don't think that that's like sloshing, like all of that. I think that there is a level of like when you know that you have had too much of anything. But I think that it becomes it's an okay sin for us. It's an okay cope. And I don't know why. I don't know why it is. And I think that people will come back to like, well, each of our convictions are different. And it's like, right. So what are your convictions? Like, where are you convicted? Because if you're not convicted anywhere, good Lord, tell me more. Like I would love to know how you reached closeness with God in this. So that's my sassy side a little bit. But it is interesting that it's one of those things where, I think it was an online post that said like, it compared not drinking to like eating a tub of mayonnaise. Like, you're not eating mayonnaise? Why aren't you eating this mayonnaise? And it's like, well, that's disgusting. That's bad for you. It's not good for you. It's not good for your body. Oh my God. I can't believe you wouldn't have, it's funny because it's like, we know that alcohol is bad for us. Yet it's the one thing that we will shame people in our life if they're not doing it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I wish I had a better answer. It's just, it's boggling. It's mind boggling.
If someone is listening to this and they are where you were last June, what's your piece of advice to them?
I would say follow the conviction. Like trace that line down, because I think when we have that hint of like, something's not right here, that's obviously the Holy Spirit. And I love, and I'm so thankful that the Holy Spirit was like attentive to me even when I was really mad at them. And I think when we kind of, Stephen Furtick, had a sermon many, many years ago about like taking every thought captive and how it's like an actual prisoner of war. Like take it so seriously. That's what I would do. I would in my podcaster brain, I would take it like a, true crime documentary and follow the line. Like where is this like pinned at? Okay, now why is it here? Now where did it go from there? And really just get to the bottom of it. Because I feel like if I had done that sooner and really got to the bottom of it, I wouldn't have needed that like heart on the ground moment in October.
That's good. And I just want to remind people, like, well, to that point, I'll say this. Curiosity, I think, is one of the most important aspects of any type of growth and healing and whatnot. And I think that is, I think that's what you're getting at, is curiosity. And so, like, I love that follow the line. Like, you know, you have your whiteboard and you're like, okay, this leads to this, this leads to this, this leads to this. And I think that's so important. So thank you for sharing that. At this point in the interview is where I would usually say to my guest, if people want to learn more about you and read what you're doing and, you know, follow your podcast, then where can they go? But since you have decided, you know what, I'm not going to strive, I'm not going to do that. I'll not do that and not put you on the spot. But I guess I will say that if people want to see you, they should just book. You don't want to say the airline because I get it, right? So I'll just say book on one of your major carriers, and you might.
That's out of doubt.
Jeanette.
No, but also come follow me on social media. I'm at Jeanette freaking Tapley on Instagram and TikTok, and I have a newsletter that goes out once a month. And
okay, so you're still doing some stuff.
I am. I'm totally still doing stuff.
Related.
Yeah, content is still there. Social media is my main kind of focus. But my newsletter is I say like social media is like the backyard party where everyone's kind of like milling around and hanging out. But like the newsletter is when you come in and it's like you have coffee with me. So you get like the depth of my heart there, which is really sweet. And I love my newsletter. And it's got lots of cool freebies there. And yeah, check that out. It's I can send you a link for that. But yeah, it's a fun place. So I'm totally doing stuff. I'm just not focused on podcasting.
Well, thank you for your vulnerability today. Thank you for being open. And I just know there's going to be people that are encouraged. And if you are, reach out to me and Jeanette and let us know. My
Tell
goodness.
us, give us an attaboy.
Yes, we need that.
We just want a pat on the back.
We just need a little, I was teaching my kids, my son who's 8, he's on baseball team, and he walked by me and I gave him a little pat on the butt in a good way. He's like, "What was that for?" I said, "It's called a good game."
Yeah.
So we need a virtual good game.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Appreciate that. Jeanette,
Thanks, John.
you
This
so
is
much.
great. I appreciate you.
I didn't have a drinking problem. I had a problem with my drinking. Listen, if you're hearing this, you do not have to wait for alcohol, food, porn, work, whatever to destroy your life before you make a decision to get curious about it. And especially if you're a Christian, your calling is to make war on the idols in your life, right? Like John Owen, be killing sin or it will be killing you. And I think maybe it's hard for some of you to realize that a thing that you're not, that doesn't look so bad can be sinful. But James talks about that anything the Lord convicts us to do and we don't do it is sin. And I think that can be the hardest. And I wish that I would have heeded that call, that stirring sooner. It would have saved me a lot of heartache. It would have saved me a lot of pain. It would have saved my wife and my family a lot of pain and heartache. Remember, the gospel is an early warning detection system. Like before the world will ever say you have a problem with something, the gospel is revealing it, and Jesus is knocking at your heart. And that's what I want to encourage you about. Like that's my goal with this podcast and what I do. So I appreciate Jeanette so much. I appreciate her honesty, her radical vulnerability. Go ahead and follow her on Instagram. It's kind of fun to watch her flight attendant videos, and you kind of get to go behind the scenes and see what that is like. I've always been fascinated by that. My wife at some point, her dream was always to be a flight attendant. And who knows, maybe in retirement she will be one because she just loves to travel. She loves that idea. And so maybe that's part of the extra fascination, but I think it's so cool. Again, I know I said at the beginning, but please visit veritasrecovery.org if you find it in your heart to maybe just throw $5 to help us keep going and keep creating resources. We have an exciting series coming out with Right Now Media called We're All Addicted to Something that will come out September 8th. It's slated September 8th, 2026. And man, I can't wait for you to see it. And there'll be ways, even if you don't have access to Right Now Media, you'll be able to see it as well. Love you all so much. Shoot me an email. Let me know how you're doing. We'll see you here next week.